Hello, everyone. Unfortunately, I've tried to complete the tribunal content, but I've come up against several obstacles. My mod list or the base game has bugs I can't address in a way that creates a satisfying narrative, similar to what happened with the Assassin's Guild. Scripting locks up, or quest NPCs or events are absent. In doing some research, most of the trouble points I encountered have happened to other people. I really don't enjoy the content of Tribunal. In my opinion, it's claustrophobic. The developers didn't provide a world space with good mapping. The biggest obstacle for me is the story itself. I didn't enjoy the story and progressed from interested to frustrated to antagonized to insulted. There's lots of fan commentary and recorded playthroughs, so I won't spoil it here, but I will recommend seeking out someone else's playthrough if you're interested. For me, they managed to hit a critically bad level of character development, plot, and game design that brought me to swearing and complaining for hours, and I'd rather that wasn't my final experience of the game. Nandeen simply wouldn't have done certain things that she was asked to do, and trying to do them was not worth the result. I chose to not use that content, which was full of me needing to use console commands to advance buggy quests, being stuck somewhere I didn't want to be while I wasn't having any fun or learning anything. So here is Nandeen's epilogue. After the end of Dagoth Ur, she experienced a curious collapse that did not debilitate her, but did cause her to withdraw. She made the rounds of her favorite places and received accolades, updates, and the usual requests. After a few days, the adrenaline rush of accomplishment wore off, and she found herself exhausted, but wakeful. She checked to see if she was diseased, but it was nothing like that. She felt like a burst bubble, and that's what she called it. A burst bubble fever, something she'd not anticipated. A cavernous space in her psyche had been filled with horror and purpose, and now those things were gone. The curious collapse resulted in her facing all that sudden emptiness and structure in her life. Who was she if not headshots and horror? She roamed her small home, wakeful and worried, though grateful for the gatekeepers of the ancestral refuge, who had adopted her as their own and fiercely defended her privacy. She had reams of correspondence from those who wanted her to right wrongs and create some arrow-shot justice. Some of them were even legitimate, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. She found comfort in tea, mushrooms, and her tiny sea monster, who had always been able to bring her joy. She thought about her future while abiding in that sudden void, thinking maybe she could teach young girls archery. Then she realized she had insufficient patience for that task and couldn't bear it if a little girl was injured on her watch. Realistically, little girls could be idiots just like big girls could be, so she discarded that idea and tried to think again, chiding herself for her cynicism, which another part of her brain simply told her was learned wisdom. It took a long time after that decision, but she did display the bow at the stronghold in Balmora, feeling as though a part of her was missing. She knew it was the right choice, but it was painful, leaving an ache and a habit of reaching for it that took months to fade in urgency and years to fade in reality. She felt its loss like a missing limb for a time. A moment of contemplating the beauty of the fire ferns while she ate breakfast gave her the answer. Alchemy was her future. She had the skill, she had the Mages Guild, and she could help develop cures for the more mundane ills of the world, which were more than enough to fill that collapsed space with life, leaves, and purpose. A few weeks after Dagoth Ur fell, she gathered her courage and hope and visited Ploroy. She was finally able to see his face again and tell him with a wobble in her voice, "I have a story to tell you." He, of course, was polite, gracious, and helpful, and that put more of a wobble into her voice and into her heart. Over cups of tea and tears, she told him everything. It took weeks. His story would leak out of her at times, onto the floor like an unwanted spill. Sometimes she could pour it into a vessel like tea, contained and entertaining. At other times, there was nothing left to say as she experienced that empty, collapsed space. When she mentioned that she had recurring nightmares, he offered to watch over her at her sleep and make sure she would not be in distress. She declined, but he insisted, reaching his hand out and holding hers. Being touched startled her. His response was a gentle smile and insistence. Her tears gave him the answer because she could not find words. He watched over her in her sleep, waking her gently when she was whimpering or crying or screaming. Over time and tales, they rarely left the room or refuge. He would watch over her while she slept and sleep while she was awake. He told his own stories, one of which was that his mother was not ill but was aging and he despaired about losing her. He wanted to be a good son. His mother was a proud woman of strong faith who refused help and wished to be left alone with her fading dignity. He shared his own doubts about the tribunal and its future, the temple and their chaotic disarray. She welcomed filling that void with him and his concerns relieved to be a part of we instead of me. She learned from his gentle insistence. One night when he was asleep in her bed, which she now thought of as their bed, though divided, she took a simple action and lay down beside him, drawing his arm over her and feeling more contentedly daring than she had going into the ghost fence. When he woke, he did not speak, but did readjust his arm to hold her. And thus they carried forward, each gently insisting upon what next good thing they wished to do in the face of disaster, death, and the hard life of the Dunmer. She developed new ash yam strains and dishes, focusing on learning what he wanted to eat, even offering to cook meat, but he said he found her mushrooms delicious and more than enough. She never knew if he was being noble or truthful, but he never cooked, and he always declined meat when she offered to make it for him. They found grace, ultimately spinning it between them and joking about creating fleets of sea monsters led by a tiny despot who smashed the glass bowls in all ports, freeing all sea creatures from captivity. To her great satisfaction, people were healed, apprentices in the Mages Guild were treated with respect, and life became delicious. She'd done it. She'd learned how to traverse the endless bridges between beauty and horror, knowledge and wisdom. She had family and a reason to live. She looked forward to the next cup of tea, the next bowl of yam and mushrooms with her special blend of magical herbs, and the nights in his arms. Thank you for joining us on this journey. She and I, and Leroy, hope you find your own path to filling your empty spaces with unique creations and experiences. And as always, happy mayhem.